Welcome back for another training session on OpenDSS-G. I'm Davis Montenegro, I'm the creator of the tool. However, in this training, I'm not going to talk about DSS-G, but more about OpenDSS-C, which is the C++ version of OpenDSS. In this video, we're going to talk about and demonstrate how to compile it in Windows or Linux without leaving Windows. So for Windows, I always recommend Visual Studio, which is very comfortable. You just need to install it. You can work with the community version, open a folder, and direct the compiler to the folder where the C++ version is. Everything is ready, so you basically, the only thing you need to do is to open the folder by clicking on it. The Visual Studio will set up everything, and there you're going to have the list of files and folders that are part of the project. Everything is set up, so there's basically nothing extraordinary to do unless you want to add new items or modify the code to your particular purpose. So in CMD we have the command line version or the compilation for the command line, and on DLL we have the header and C++ files for the direct DLL, where you can find all the different interfaces that mimic the ones that we already have in Delphi, and you can just move between, navigate the content, and make it work as you need, all within the C++ programming language, which is the advantage that this version offers to traditional OpenDSS users and developers. There is a file which is the one we use to tell Visual Studio if we're going to work on a debug version or release. This is the cmake presets.json. There you can find the word debug. In this case, that's what I'm going to do. Or you can change it to release, and that way you're going to generate a fully released binary for the command line and the DLL at the same time. So for debug, the first thing you need to do is to define the startup item, which I just did by right-clicking on OpenDSS.cpp, sorry. And after that, I'll just click on build all, and that will start the compilation. With the compilation done, we can just click on play, and that will bring us the command line window so we can start playing with OpenDSS. Let's start by compiling a simple system, say one of the systems that come with OpenDSS, in this case Circuit 5. I'm going to call master.dss, get some results, let's see what we get. So we're going to compile, return, then solve the system. We got the job done, and we're going to show some voltages as a report, so we can see what we get. With this test, we have verified that OpenDSS is working as expected. We can get some results, validate that the installation and the compilation is working properly. Now, the question is, what if I want to do the same on Linux, but without losing the commodity and the comfort of Windows? Well, that's possible with WSL. WSL is the Windows subsystem for Linux. This is a feature of Windows that allows you to run a Linux environment on your Windows machine without the need of a separate virtual machine or dual booting. This is a very interesting tool that comes with Windows since Windows 10 that allows you to have minimal compilations of Linux within your Windows operating system and make them part of it. So it's very easy to exchange files, run compilations, create new programs in different Linux distributions, which is one of the features that OpenDSS C++ version offers. To start with WSL, the first thing you need to do is to figure out what distribution do you want. For that, you can ask Windows. So open the PowerShell and type WSL-L-O. That will show you all the different Linux distributions that you can install in Windows. You have Alma Linux, SUSE, Ubuntu, Debian, Oracle Linux, etc. You can have several Linux distributions installed in your system. Actually, right now I have one in Ubuntu, and for this exercise I'm going to create a new one that we're going to set as default for the exercise. To install the new distribution, just type WSL --install and the name of the distribution you want. In this case, I'm going to install Debian. Then WSL is going to start downloading the packages and creating the distribution locally. Once the distribution is done, you can go to the Windows Explorer, and there you'll see a little branch called Linux, where you have all your Linux distributions, and you can actually get inside, create folders, put files inside, extract files from there, and exchange between Linux and Windows like if you're talking with the same operating system, which is very comfortable. After closing the PowerShell, run the WSL using or typing WSL on your search bar, but wait, don't use the one that says run command. Use the one that just says WSL. That will make a huge difference. So in here now we're inside Linux. As you can see, I'm checking on ls, trying to see what we have at home. We have nothing. So the first reasonable thing to do will be to update my repositories. So I'm gonna call to sudo apt update, and same with apt get, and we have them up to date. The first time it's gonna ask you for a user and password, so you have to create it. In my case, it was very simplistic. And now what I'm gonna do is to install everything we need for OpenDSS, for compiling OpenDSS-C, which is CMake. We're gonna install the unique ID for the development, which is something we added a few years back, and then the build essential to allow us to build new packages within Linux, bringing some compilers like GCC and others. The distribution in WSL is super simplistic, so simplistic that it doesn't even have Python, so we need to install it, as I'm doing right now. I'm installing Python 3, and after that I'm gonna install some other libraries like NumPy and Pandas, which we may need later. In this case, this was a typo. It's not equals, it's dash. And with that, we're installing NumPy and then Pandas. The installation process is just as you will do on a normal Linux distribution. In fact, that's what you have. But the cool thing is, as you can see, everything is within Windows, which is very comfortable. And we can see that everything communicates very well. Finally, I'm going to install a visualization tool so I can see the OpenDSS reports as if I had Notepad inside Linux, which is very convenient. And if you like, you can also install Xterm for compilations in which you want to use the PyControl device and want to do some debug internally in Linux. Now that we have our Linux system ready, I'm going to go into Windows using the Windows Explorer and copy the source code of the C++ version. You don't have to do this because you can also do the compilation directly from Linux, redirecting to Windows. But I'm just going to do it, so in case I do changes to C, I don't want to kill my Windows version. So I'm just, as you see, we can just copy and paste directly from folder to folder, no matter if you're Windows or Linux. That doesn't make a difference. Now, I've created also a folder called build, which will help us do the compilation. So for that, if I go to Linux and check for build and version C, I'm going to find the two folders that I created on Windows directly into Linux. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the distribution, the compilation with the commands that are provided with the documentation in OpenDSS. This is cmake build type release, and I'm going to tell it where the source code is. And with that, the configuration is set up. So what I'm going to do now is to run the compilation. For doing that, again, I'll just use the commands that are provided in the user manual, cmake, compile, and we are ready to go. So we're building with some parameters to use multi-threading during the compilation, and boom, the compilation has started. Once the compilation is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a very simple circuit. In this case, I brought one from the examples that only has a load, a source, a line, just to see how it works. So let's see it here in Notepad++. I'm going to pick my OpenDSS Black. And this one was an example that uses PyControl. In this case, I'm just going to comment it out to use the basics. Save it. As you can see, even though the file is in the Linux subsystem, right now I'm able to modify it in Windows. I'm going to run OpenDSS. So here is the command. And now we're going to compile the little script that I just brought in. in this case 3_3ph_delta.dss. I'm gonna run it and it solves. So I solved it, and now I'm gonna show some reports which are gonna show very nicely. So I'm run it, and I have the report here in the form of a kind of a notepad report, and from there I can bring some other stuff, just enter. Depending on your Linux distribution, you're gonna get some warning messages, but well, there's nothing really important, so you can just keep getting all those reports and everything should match within your simulation, which is great. Also, if you get into the build folder within Linux, you're going to find not only the executable, but also are going to find the DLL totally compiled. Here, I'm just asking for what's inside. You can see the DLL, you can see the executable. Everything looks fantastic. Now the question is, what if I would like to, for example, being able to modify the code using an environment like Visual Studio Code within Linux, within my Linux distribution, and being able to compile, being able to modify the code and play with it. Can I do that? Well, the answer is yes. So for that, open Visual Studio Code and create a new window. Go to File, New Window. Maximize the new window, and from there just type F1. That will take you to the options at the top, and select Run WSL on distro. Click on that and we'll show you the distros available. Pick the one you're working on, Debian, and it's going to bring everything like if you are working with VS Code from inside the distribution. I'm going to open a folder, pick the one I want to work in, version C, and there we are. It's asking me if I want to trust the authors. I guess I will. And here you have everything as if you are on VS Code working within a Linux distribution. Now the interesting thing is it is a little bit complicated to make it work directly, especially because it's going to ask for Ninja, which is a kind of a preset within Windows. But instead you can open a terminal window and do everything as I'm showing right now. You can run the OpenDSS command, you can compile, you can run the examples, and at the same time have a nice visualization within VS Code, which will allow you to modify the code. You can try to rebuild it, see how your modification works, or if it triggers any errors or warnings. So here I'm doing the same exercise, solving the system, showing some reports, and as you can see, everything connecting Visual Studio Code with what you have in your Linux distribution. So that's it. From here, it's a matter of just start playing with it and see what you get. So this is all I have for today. Thank you so much for seeing my video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next training. Thank you.